Welcome to the Raef Granger podcast.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you all to listening to the Raef Granger podcast. And I'm really excited to have on Denise Smith from Live It Well Travel. I met Denise in our BNI group, and I just wanted to have her on. She's just a hoot. And so welcome, Denise.
Thanks, Raef. I appreciate this opportunity to hang out with you.
You bet. And I'm going to start right in with questions. So for people just tuning into the show, it's a coffee style chat. Another name for it could be Let's Talk with Raef. I love talking. So I happen to know a little bit about Denise's origin story, and I just want her to share it. And then we'll talk about, I don't know, travel stuff or whatever comes to mind. So Denise, tell us, your professional and or just origin story.
Well, I started professionally organizing travel 2.5 years ago, and before that I was an amateur. So what I mean by that is I finally started getting paid for organizing people's trips. I'm a very detail-oriented type A. I love my lists type person. So planning travel kind of really evolved out of that. I've always loved planning our own travel. And so friends, family, neighbors, whenever they wanted to go somewhere, they would kind of pick my brain. And eventually it just got to, why don't you do this for your job? I'm like, yeah, that'd be really cool. But how do you start a travel business? Because it's one of those things that, I don't know, 20 years ago, there used to be a dime a dozen. But how do you do that now? So that took a little bit of time for me to investigate and try to make some connections. And just in the beginning of 2018, it just came to fruition, and the rest is history. So
how do you? That was actually one of my questions. You have to be licensed, or you take a certificate?
Well, there are a number of ways. My way is the best for me. So how it works is I have my business, Live It Well Travel, is my own LLC. I'm, sole owner of this particular travel company, but I have an umbrella company, and that umbrella company is, I kind of make the association like a hairstylist. So a hairstylist could be an independent stylist, and they rent a chair from a barbershop or from a salon. So they use the facilities that the salon has available to them, the shampooer and, the sink and the hair dryer and stuff like that. Although they might buy some of their own things like the products and such, but the space that they're using belongs to the owner of the salon. So for me, my licensing and the special numbers that I have to book trips with vendors like Disney or Royal Caribbean or Sandals or Trafalgar or Viking Cruise, whatever it is, those credentials come from my umbrella company. So I have done enough business that I've earned my own credentials, but at the beginning, being able to use my umbrella company's credentials were essential in me getting my foot in the door. So that's basically how it happens. That umbrella company, they provide training, they provide opportunities to get to meet the folks that are part of those vendor systems. They provide support, they provide a lot of the financial record keeping online and such. So they're kind of my back office, but all the connections, all of the relationships that I have with the vendors are the relationships that I've created over time with them. And so it's a really nice relationship. Everybody kind of wins. So
is this where, because part of what I want this podcast to do is if people are just listening to it and they're like, I've always wanted to do that. I mean, be a travel agent. I want, hear your story, and it's almost like a guidepost. Maybe it doesn't work out the way it did for you, but like you said, is this one of those, I didn't finish my thought. Like you said, I want people to be able to be like, how do I go from step A to step B? So let's say there's somebody listening and they're like, I want to do this too. Do they have to, step one, find the so-called umbrella company, and how do they do that?
So Yes, I think so. I think that they need to find what niche works for them. So for me, it was having that umbrella company. You could also work for a company like AAA, for example. They
Oh,
offer travel services still. So that, and they are essentially their own umbrella company, except for you're an employee of AAA. So they don't just have people that do, car insurance or, stuff like that. They have travel agents. You could do that. Um, there are multi-level marketing opportunities. If that's something that you're interested in, um, you could get in touch with one of those companies. I'm not as familiar with how they work as far as like how you get paid as a travel agent, for example. So I don't really know how that works. But for me, what I did, I relied on the massive ability of social media. And I think it was probably around like the first week of January, you're kind of reevaluating your life and going, how do I make this dream come true? So I just reached out on social media, on Facebook, and said, this is a dream of mine. I've wanted to do this forever, but I don't know where to get started. I'm a smart person. I have these credentials. I've been doing this in, in in an amateur way for all this time. How do I find out how to make this a career move? And one of my friends responded with someone that she knew that is actually, her name is Denise also, strangely enough, but she lives in New Hampshire and she is also part of this umbrella company. And so she reached out to me and she kind of talked me through it. So it was super, super helpful. You might think that the travel agent business is kind of cutthroat, and maybe in some places it is, but we're not in the same market. I think I've only met her once at one of the trainings that we had for Carnival that was in Portsmouth, but she was super helpful. All of the agents that I know that are under this umbrella company are super kind, helpful, all that stuff. So, I mean, that's really just how I did it. You could probably Google it too, like
so it
how to become
sounds
a
like
travel agent.
kind of like
Yeah,
what we say. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And in this case, you use
for sure.
social media, and that got you connected to somebody who was willing to share the pathway in. So, okay, so
Yep,
people listening,
that's it.
reach out and find somebody in the travel agency business that'll talk to you and learn the way in.
Yeah,
Love it. I used to call that
for
back
sure.
in the
And
day. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just going to say, after I started my business, a lady that I was working with, I was working at the school district here in Berwick at the time, and she reached out to me and asked me how I did it. And so I walked her through it. I was still pretty new at it, but connected her with it. And I don't know if she's still maintaining her business. She has 2 little kids. So it's a lot of work. I'm going to tell you that. It's a lot of training and a lot of time. So it's definitely not for everyone. But
to get to be a travel agent, or once you are one?
Nope, you know what? You sign up for a MLM, multi-level marketing, or an umbrella company type situation. And I mean, you can call yourself a travel agent as soon as you pay your fee. Like, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of work. I mean, look, you're helping people plan their trips, and you're tying up their money for them. You know what I mean? You don't want to not know what you're doing. So it takes a while to get to that point where you feel comfortable.
What's a typical day look like for you pre-COVID?
Pre-COVID. I'm glad you put that up there. I answer a lot of emails in the morning. A lot of clients. The thing is, when my clients are traveling, I'm kind of on 24/7. If they have any issues that come up, if they have any questions, or a change in schedule, or whatever it is, I'm always available for them. So when I have folks traveling, like that could be any time of day or night, really, depending on what time zone they're in. Generally, I do emails in the morning, depending on what types of quotes I'm working on. That's what I'm working on during the day. A lot of research, a lot of phone calls. I love to do customized Europe trips, which is a little time consuming, but again, because I love planning and I'm a itinerary type of girl, that's just right up my alley. So, yeah, I do spend a lot of time on the computer.
Okay. Yeah. What do you love most about your job?
Oh man, I don't know. I love making the dream vacations. I mean, for me, it's all about making memories. I cherish so much the memories that we have made traveling, and they're topics of conversation that never go away. And the stories that I share with my kids from, the time that they had their first memories of us traveling, they're super precious. And, even, I don't know, I feel like traveling gives us an opportunity to grow together, because sometimes we're put in positions traveling that we're not familiar with, or maybe even not comfortable with. Like if you're traveling in another country and you don't speak the language or speak it well, you have to get from point A to point B. Like there's a little bit of hardship there, and trying to figure that out as a family, really, it's a cool bonding experience. Mm-hmm. So for me, I feel like helping to provide those opportunities for people to grow relationships and make memories, that's the best part of my job.
I totally can see that. What do you hate most about your job?
COVID.
Pre-COVID. We're going to get to COVID.
Pre-COVID. Okay. Nothing. I don't hate anything. I've had such amazing clients. I've had great experiences, and I think part of that is because my clients have an adventurous spirit, and they haven't been high maintenance. And what I mean by that is you can't control every aspect of everything that happens with travel, and sometimes you just have to be willing to roll with it. And I think that appropriate preparation on my end for my clients helps that. Pointing out possible pitfalls, or, if this happens, then this is how we'll attack it. Or, you know what I mean? Like just having that relationship with them, I really think has made it so that I don't have anything that I hate about my job.
Okay. With the internet being what it is, I'm sure you get this question asked 100 million times, which is, why do I need a travel agent? And what's your answer to that?
You don't need a travel agent. I mean...
Okay, let me phrase it. Why might I want to hire one?
Exactly. That's the point. You definitely want to hire a travel agent. So we're still talking pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID.
After COVID, I think it might be evident that why people might want a travel agent. But like I said, it's the personal relationship that I develop with people. Once people understand that by using a travel agent, it's not going to cost them any money to use my professional services. In fact, it can sometimes save them money. They get my personal attention. They have me on call 24/7.
Is that common among travel agents? Is that part of the job, or is that just what you do?
I think for a lot of us, when we have people traveling, we're on 24/7. Okay. As far as I do not charge a booking fee. So the pay structure, if you want to call it that, for most travel agents in a business like mine that has an umbrella company, I work with, we'll say Disney, for example. If I book a trip for you and your family to go to Disney, then, Disney is very labor intensive. So I do as much of it as you'd like, or as little of it as you like. I can plan your meals, your fast passes, of course, where you stay, your park tickets, your plane tickets, like all of that. It can be a whole package. I do all of that for free for you. So after the trip, Disney has always set aside a percentage, let's say 3%. So 3% of your trip goes to either a travel professional, if someone plans it for you, or Disney keeps it. So either way, you're paying the same amount. So you're either supporting a local business and getting personalized care and someone to manage Disney for you, which is not easy to do if you've never done it before,
Sure.
or Disney keeps it and you do all the work. So, you know, I think when people realize that kind of the service that comes along, it's not out of their pocket. No. And some agents do, they charge a ready to travel fee, so to
Is that
speak.
the same as a booking fee? Because I was going to ask you.
Yeah, booking fee. Yeah. So like,
so
let's
that
say
might be a question to ask if they're hiring a travel agency. Do you require a booking fee?
For sure. And a lot of and you know what? It's kind of to weed out the tire kickers, honestly. And a lot of my job is tire kicking because people are just curious, you know, like, oh, how much would it be to go here and here? Oh, I'd love to take this anniversary trip and go here. How much would that be? Sometimes their expectations are unrealistic, and that's okay. Or sometimes they're like on the mark, like you never know. But some agents that have been established a really long time and have a really solid client base are not willing to have tire kickers kind of waste their time. So they'll charge a, $200 fee. Well, if you book, that goes towards your vacation. And if you're not going to book, I'm going to keep that. So that's kind of how that usually works.
Oh, okay. All right. I think I'm getting a clearer picture for sure. What can one I'm not asking you to share your personal financials, but can one make a living doing this?
Eventually, yes.
What's that mean?
So a lot of it, it's really, it's so based on a lot of different factors, Raef. I wish I could so yes, you can. But for me, I gave myself a 5-year plan to get to the point where I thought I could make a living wage. And I mean, I have a household and 2 teenage kids, so I'm not talking $20,000 a year, like a decent amount of money that I could contribute to my family's finances. A lot of people do this as a hobby. And, I think the people that have the skills to do this, it's fun for me. I enjoy doing it. But there are definitely people in my umbrella company that make 6 figures, like, without sneezing.
So
they have
similar to a real estate agent. Like you got to get going, and then as you build your client base, have a good client base.
Exactly. You have to have a good client base.
I suppose there's ways to do it where you're booking 20 people a year at $5,000 Disney trips, or there might be the one to pick with the $15,000 Africa trip or something. I'm totally making that up.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And booking groups or destination weddings, things like that. There's decent money in that. I do a fair amount of budget travel, which a lot of agents won't touch because there's not a lot of money in it. But my perspective is, again, I want people to have an experience.
You want them to have that experience.
Yeah, yes, I want them to have the experience. And that young couple with little kids at home that gets an escape to Italy for $600 each, when they can afford to bring their children to Disney, they're going to call me. When they celebrate a 25-year anniversary on a Mediterranean cruise, they're going to call me. So I want to develop that relationship wherever they're at. It's not realistic for me to say, oh no, I'd only like $1 million clients. Like that's not going to happen as much as I'd like it to.
Yeah. You reminded me of something I used to run when I ran my law practice, which was, I didn't know this, but people were a little bit intimidated to even call because they thought like it's going to cost $500. And some lawyers do charge for the initial consult.
Yep.
But I would always instruct people, I give this as my business coaching now, I instruct people to be like, no, lawyers want you to call. That's how they make their living. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they might not give you legal advice in that initial call. They may set an appointment where there's a fee, but the initial call, you need no money. And you don't necessarily need $5,000. Like the lawyer might be able to solve it for just $500. Right. If somebody's listening to this and is like, I'm embarrassed, I don't know what Disney costs, and I have, $3,000 budgeted. Like, do you find that people are embarrassed and you're like, no, don't be embarrassed. Just ask. Or What do you have? Is there a hurdle to overcome, or what advice do you have for people?
I think maybe in some way, and you brought up Disney. Disney, staying on Disney property can be a pretty expensive trip. It's probably one of the more expensive family vacations that you can go on. And yet I have lots of multi-generational family trips that I plan a lot. So, eventually I think that people might get to that point. But when families have little kids and they're just starting out, I just booked a Disney trip last week, in fact, and we have a very tight budget. Well, if you're willing to stay off of Disney property, I can make that budget happen. Like, you're probably, unless you have a camper and you want to camp at Fort Wilderness, which is cool, I might not be able to meet those really tight budgets. But staying 5 minutes outside of the main gate, you could almost cut your trip in half. So
you just gave me a memory. Speaking of memories with families, we camped. My family were campers. They were 2 school teachers, and so we didn't stay in hotels and things. We went in the camper, which my brother and I complained about, of course, because we wanted to be in the hotels. But now we look back, and I have you just gave me this very fond memory of being in Fort Wilderness, and I'll never forget. My parents bought my brother and I those big long like frontier rifles, those like pretend rifles.
Yeah.
And that was, again, I grew up in the 80s, and my parents didn't just buy me gifts because I wanted it. Like, we were shocked that they bought it for us. It wasn't our birthday type of thing.
Yeah.
And I have a very fond memory of that, running around with my brother and the little flintlock, click, click, click. And yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this couple, actually, they're like, we're sorry, we're giving you the runaround. We know our budget isn't a lot to work with. And I'm like, hey, this is what you have. If I can't do it, I'll tell you.
Okay. And you won't be upset.
I'll let you know. No,
right?
Of course not. Of course not. Almost all the time there is some way to make the budget happen. Unless it's completely unrealistic.
Okay, what's a good base point? Like, if somebody had $1,500 for some sort of vacation, is it like, yep, there are vacations we can do that for? Or you're like, no, the minimum would be, you'd want to, have $2,000 as a minimum, or what? Yeah, what's the floor?
It depends on the vacation. Okay. If it's Disney, or if it's an all-inclusive in the Caribbean, any vacation, yes, I could make a vacation out of $1,500. I could make a cruise out of $1,500 without blinking an eye.
So it sounds like $500, plan your own, somewhere in the $1,000 to $1,500, you can call an agent.
I don't have a minimum. So, if I can plan it, I'll plan it for you, but okay. I don't,
No minimum, folks.
No minimum.
Love it.
There are some things I can't do, so we should probably address that. Domestic air, and even pre-COVID, there's so many rules and regulations that I have to, like, quote unquote, agree to on your behalf. I just don't do it.
So just have people book their own domestic air.
Honestly, seriously, I book my own air. I look on Orbitz and compare, and then I go to Delta, or I go to JetBlue or Alaska Air, because they're going to have the same price. I'd rather book with that company, so there's no middleman to say, oh, well, they don't charge a fee to change it, but we do. So you don't want to deal with that.
I've always wondered that. Like, I do the same thing. I'll go to Orbitz, but then book direct with Delta, because I'm afraid if there's some problem, Delta might be like, sorry, man, you booked with Orbitz, call them. Is that true, seriously? Or did I make that up in my head?
No, it could happen. And it's maybe, it might not be a monetary loss necessarily, but there have been times, ages ago, where we would need to get, a seat change or something random like that, because they separated. I don't know but if we called Delta, for example, they'd say, well, because you booked on another platform, we don't have access to that booking. So I would then have to call Orbitz or Expedia or something like that. And so it's just one more phone call.
You
don't want to deal with that. So that's what I do for domestic. I don't want to book international flights that are standalone. I prefer to book them as a package. So there are a couple of safeguards there. I will help people book international flights if they're standalone, but I won't do it for them, so to speak.
Okay.
But I'm happy to help. I'm happy. I'm happy if you. Someone called me and it was an older gentleman and he couldn't figure out how to book a flight to I think it was Tulsa to see his grandkids or something, and he just randomly called me, and so I just walked him through it online,
I can
and
totally see you doing that. Yeah.
I was happy to do that. It was
Yeah.
totally fine. I'll never hear from that fellow again, but I helped him see his grandkids. I mean, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, I love it. I love that. Talk to me about COVID. What do people need to know? What should we be doing or not doing? What's your life like now?
My life is just kind of weird right now. Man, when all of this hit, okay, here's the true story. On March 12th, when all of this went down, literally at 9 p.m., when the president came on the television saying we're no longer going to let people return from Europe, I was at my gate 10 minutes from boarding a flight to Greece. And I looked at my travel companion, my friend MJ, and I'm like, MJ, we can't go to Greece. We might not get home. And which under some circumstances might be fabulous. Not within a never-ending perpetual stay in Athens.
Right.
So yeah, he said, grab your stuff, MJ, we have to go. So I went up to the folks at the gate and I said, we need to get our stuff pulled off this plane. We can't go. And like everyone's freaking out. It was like this scene from a movie. It was crazy. So yeah, we didn't go to Greece that day. And then after that, I just started making phone calls. And I mean, at the beginning, it was rough because nobody knew anything. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know
how deadly or dangerous it was, or
absolutely everything was canceled except for nobody had caught up with that. Like, for example, I had this is my only sad story with COVID as far as my clients go. And everyone has had such a great attitude about it because they understand that there's nothing to do about it. Like, it's just is what it is. But these poor folks that were scheduled to go to the Mediterranean, they were scheduled to depart on March 10th. So this is after people kind of started having an idea of what COVID was, especially in Europe. So they were both healthcare workers, and their job had said, if you go on this trip, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks before you can come back to work. Well, these are just regular folks. They don't have like 3.5 weeks to just waste, a week and a half on this Mediterranean cruise and then 2 weeks when they get back home. So they're like, we have to postpone. We don't have a choice, and at that time, Italy was still quasi open. Some ports were open, some weren't. So their cruise was still happening, but it was being diverted. Like I said, in the beginning, things were all over the place. So these folks moved their cruise to September. Cruise part was no problem, but the flights were a nightmare because the airlines hadn't caught up with, if you have to move your flight, you don't have to pay any change fees. So these folks had to pay a change fee, which was almost the cost of their tickets, plus then the change in cost of the tickets from their original booking to the new price. You know what I mean? Eventually it all got ironed out, but it was a nightmare because, all of this is happening and the regulations hadn't caught up. Everyone was just kind of hoping that it would just go away, and it didn't. And so right now I've had probably slightly more cancellations than rebookings. I haven't had anyone travel since March, outside of the US, of course. And
is that if they want to, or are we still restricted?
Certain places. No, you can go to the parts of the Caribbean. You can go to certain states can go to Costa Rica. Maine and New Hampshire are among those. Croatia is accepting Americans. What's that?
Is it like fire sale? Like if you've ever wanted to go now because they're starving, or are you like, no, prices aren't that much different? You'd be surprised.
Prices are better. It's not a fire sale. I wouldn't go that far, but prices are pretty good.
Okay.
Egypt is welcoming Americans. Other countries in Africa are welcoming Americans. So, I mean, they are out there.
Did you hear about Bermuda, what Bermuda's doing?
Yes, I heard about Bermuda. And actually, the Bahamas just updated their, I think they're implementing it on September 15th. I just read it this morning. A lot of places now are going with a 14-day, what are they calling it? Bahamas is calling it a VIP. Oh, vacation in place. That's what they're calling it. So, you know, which I think some of these deals are pretty good. The pricing's fabulous. And if you can go for 14 days and your kids are going to school remotely and you're working remotely, what the heck? Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I was talking about, it sounds like two different things. So Bermuda, I caught a thing that, and I think other countries are doing this too. Bermuda was doing live there for a year and work remote.
No, I haven't read about that.
Yeah, they're recruiting people to come here and work remote. You have to have no fever, no COVID, no contact. Yep. You have to have health insurance. There's like criteria, but it's cool. You know, it's a special passport extension or something like that. Wow. I told my wife, I'm like, let's go. She surprised me. So my birthday's this Thursday, and last year I turned 50, and she completely surprised me with a Bermuda vacation. Aww. And I know, and I was so surprised. I just did not see that in our radar. And she is such a great gift giver and surprise giver that on the way to the airport, I still had no idea. You know, and so
you didn't know where you were going?
No, she said,
oh my gosh.
She's like, all right, you need to pack. And you need to pack for, you know, about 3 days. So again, that threw me off. And she's like, pack for anything.
Because we decided to stay longer.
Yeah. She's like, bring bathing suit, bring warm weather clothes, and bring your scuba suit or wetsuit. I'm like, wetsuit? I thought we're going to Boston to like Cambridge for 3 days or something. You know, I'm like, what am I going to do with a wetsuit? I'm like going to stand up paddleboard in the Charles River. Like, what is going on? And then
I need a hazmat suit for that.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, oh, I forgot something at home. Can you FaceTime Emmy, my youngest? And then Emmy's all giggly, and she has this pad of paper up, and we're playing Hangman. And I'm like, oh, I guess we're playing Hangman. So the clue was Bermuda. And so me being the gamer geek that I am, I'm just playing a game. And so I go, play Hangman, and I'm like, Bermuda. I'm like, great, solve the puzzle. Like, it didn't even register. And they're like giggling, and they're like, it's like, what? We're going to Bermuda, you idiot. I'm like, oh my God. So I was completely surprised. So that's anyway, awesome. When that hit my eye, I'm like, oh, I want to go.
I know. No, I want to take advantage of that 2 weeks to just, you know, go and vacation in place or whatever Jamaica's doing or whatever. Man,
I loved Bermuda. She didn't like it as much. We got married in Aruba, and she liked Aruba better. I did not like Aruba better. I liked Bermuda better.
No, I've been to Aruba. I've not been to Bermuda.
I recommend it. I like it.
Yeah.
Do you connect with her? That reminds me of this other thing. It sounds like a scam, but I think it's real, but I wonder what the catch is. Have you heard about buying the houses in Italy for like $1 or $5?
No, I don't know about that specifically.
Okay.
I do know that houses in Italy can be extremely affordable, but I mean, like, you know, 20 to 50,000, extremely affordable, but they need a lot of work.
Yeah.
The buying them wicked cheap, like $1 or something.
It's a thing. It's this,
send me that information, man, because I'm going to buy 20 of them.
Well, you might not want to after you read it. So it's a real thing from what I've seen in travel magazines. What it is apparently is, I got to write this down in my notes so I don't remember Italy, is, you know, these different mayors, there's these different towns that are aging and aging and aging out. I mean, there's just nobody in these little villages. And so this mayor had this idea, is like, we're going to sell a house for $1, but there's a lot of criteria. You have to have the money to bring the house back up to code, because everybody's just dying and leaving. Yeah. And these houses are becoming dilapidated.
Okay.
You have to be somehow, I think it's either have a business or have the ability to work there. And it's like a 5-year commitment. Now, how they're how they're enforcing that, I don't know. But when I first saw that, I'm like, that's like a Ponzi scheme or something. But no, a
Yeah.
couple other, I don't know, Leisure Magazine or something. You'll see reports on it if you Google it. And now other
Okay.
cities are doing that too. But it's one of my dreams. I don't know if it's a real dream or I just pretend it's a dream. We both were teachers, right?
Mhm.
In our history. So
Yeah.
I taught in the border of Mexico when I graduated, and I was a complete immersion. I was in a Latino population, and I did not know how to speak Spanish. And so I learned, and it was immersed. And I'm like, this is really cool. I want to do this again. I want to be immersed. So I'm like, ooh, Italy, I don't speak Italian. I can go through the whole immersion thing and live. But I don't know if it might just be a dream that I'm not fully, like if my wife was like, yeah, let's go. I'd be like, wait, no, I don't want to go. I have friends here. I've got work here, that kind of thing. But yeah.
We kind of have the same dream when our kids have graduate. I don't know if I want to say graduated, because I don't know if that means high school or college, or even if both of my kids are going to go to college. I'm not sure. And if I say settled, I don't even know what that means either. So later in life, my husband and I plan to move to Europe. We love Italy. Italy would definitely be high on
Oh, see, I've never
the
been.
list. Oh, I've been 3 times, and it's so amazing.
And have you read The Broker, the John Grisham novel?
Yes, I
So
love John Grisham.
That's what spurred me. So anybody who hasn't read The Broker, it's the story, and the guy has to go kind of hide out in Italy and be immersed. And I'm like, I want to do that so badly.
Yeah, I love that. France is also high on my list, which I know a lot of people don't love France, but I am a Francophile, and I don't even know why. I love France. So I don't know, but
my one little trip, I went on that was my only overseas trip. I did one of those little group trips through both London or England and then France. And I liked England a lot, and I loved the beauty and the art of France. But yeah, I didn't have that desire to be like, I must live in Paris.
Yeah, I would not want to live in Paris. I visited Paris a couple of times, and I'm not a city girl. I like to visit the cities and take in what they have to offer, but I'm a country girl. A lot of all of our trips actually to Europe that we've taken have at least had some element of adventure, meaning we rent a car and we just drive. And even if we have specific stops that we're making for accommodations, we just wander. And we've just found such quaint villages and people that were genuinely happy to engage with us. And so that's been really endearing in all of the places that we've been. So getting off the beaten path, I speak a little bit of French, a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Italian, like 2 words in German that are probably not appropriate. And we're not, linguists, so to speak, but we try. And I think that is helpful. And
I noticed that. Yep.
And it's
when I was
just
there.
Been so fun. Yeah, I know. Just give it a whirl. Honestly, a lot of people speak English, and it's to our detriment that we don't really encourage our kids to really get in depth with the language, even just one language. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be multiple languages, but learn Spanish or French till you're at a decent conversational level, not just dog and cat and door,
Yeah.
So
that was my experience when I learned. I would say I learned Spanish to the level of conversational, or what I call restaurant Spanish. I was able to order, navigate a city, know where the restrooms were, be polite. And then when I went to France, somebody had said to me, and I took 4 years of French in high school, which I was horrible at least speaking it, my accent was horrible. But someone had said, even if you just say hello in French first, like just don't walk up to the counter and order like your typical, American.
Yep.
And I did find that was true. If I just said, pardonnez-moi, can I have that, and point to the thing, they were so pleasant. Or bonjour, absolutely. Can you please help me? And it just made, and if I said s'il vous plaît at the end, then they, it just, merci. It just, even those little words helped, because they're like, hey, the guy's trying.
Exactly. It's honoring someone else's country and their home, their place where they are. You're a visitor, at least give it a try.
At least give it a try.
you're gonna butcher it. It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
when they learned English, they probably weren't perfect at it the first week either. So it's all right.
I remember too, like, did you ever know or hear the thing how, let me see, Italian, French, and Spanish are really related because they're Latin based. I didn't take Latin, but they're Latin based languages, unlike English, which is Germanic based, I guess.
Yes.
And by being immersed in Mexico or Texas, I was speaking Spanish a lot. It was Pig Latin Spanish. But when I went to Paris, I didn't have that fear. I was used to speaking very poorly in another language. So it helped. And I even remember accidentally, so I might say, perdonez-moi, and then I said, donde están los paños? And I would speak Spanish,
Yes.
and the person understood me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I guess they really are related.
They definitely are. So that has made my learning of Italian a lot more difficult, to be honest. I did French in high school, and then for a hot minute, I was a Spanish major in college. So I actually took a fair amount of Spanish in college. But then, which this, but your listeners don't, in the Army, I was an Arabic linguist. So I was studying Arabic. So I do have a propensity for languages, but I don't know one of them fully other than English. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I learn a different language, my default is always French. So the vocabulary that I'm learning, or if I'm trying to say a sentence, I in my head I'm saying it in French first. And it's hard.
And then you're
it's
translating it to the other language. Yeah.
Yes, I can't get over that. But
I
that's all right.
I remember that great feeling, again, living in Texas, when I didn't think in English and then translate the word to Spanish. The Spanish word came first. And I was like, I did it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then when you start to dream in parts of those languages. Yeah, that's so cool.
Spanish. I still have a desire. I keep trying because I want to learn. If you came up to me and said, the donkey ate the balloon in Spanish, I'd have no idea what you're talking about. I only can do it contextually. And I don't know how to conjugate the verbs, and I don't know
verb conjugation,
present tense, and I don't have enough vocabulary. But I did sign up for Duolingo. Do you know that app?
I love Duolingo. Yeah.
And I started to go a little bit farther, but then when I don't practice the language, I just go, why am I wasting my time with this? This is ridiculous. So anyway, I would like to end, we're almost wrapping up. I would like to hear about your army. Tell the listeners about that, how you joined, why you joined, what you did there. And I'm also looking at my hair. So a little bonus for the people who are on Patreon. I definitely have headset hair, COVID headset hairs going on here. You definitely want to check that out. But let's hear about your, how in the heck did you join the Army?
Well, I think this is also probably one of my personality traits that led me to be a travel agent is I get bored easily. And I joined the Army when I was 26. I already had a bachelor's degree from Penn State. I've been secondary education. I'd been teaching for 3.5 years, and I was bored. I love education, so I'm like, my dad had been in the military. Like a lot of people in my family had been in the military. I love America. My dad said, my dad, he always has great quotes. He said, you don't have to love your government, but you got to love your country. So I was like, I can get behind that. I love my country. So I was like, this might be a good fit. So I went to the recruiter's office, and of course they're super excited because they have an adult that has a bachelor's degree and had been living on her own, like, a grown-up person, not an 18-year-old that they have to fuss with more. But so I took the required tests. I did extremely well on the first exam, and the recruiter said, hey, do you want to take this special test that decides how you learn languages? And I'm like, sure, I'll take that test. called a DLAP. It's a Defense Language Aptitude Battery. So I took it. Depending on how you do on this test determines what language you have the option of studying. So you could completely flunk the test and then, that wouldn't be the job for you. Or you could do pretty well on the test and then they give you an option of one of the romantic languages. You could do a little bit better on the test and then you could get, like a German and Russian. I think those are category 4 languages. They're more difficult. Romantic languages are category 3 languages. Or if you do really well, you could study the category 5 languages, and these are Arabic, Chinese, Mandarin Chinese, Pashto, Dari, like these, like English is a category 5 language. So I did really well. And so this was in March, and I said, I was still teaching at the time. I couldn't go anywhere, and I wanted to work for the summer. So I worked for the summer, and you won't believe this, but it's the truth. My ship date, the day that my mom brought me up to the MEPS, the Military Entrance Program Station in Portland, was September 11th, 2001.
Oh my gosh.
We were sitting in the lobby of the MEP station with their big TV watching everything happen.
Wow.
And yep, it was crazy. It was crazy. So we hadn't been sworn in yet. There was a whole group of us there that were going to basic training. Like, that's how it works. We hadn't been sworn in yet. We had our final physical. Like, we were literally minutes away from being sworn in. They called us all into the room. They said, you guys don't have a commitment. If we are releasing you of your commitment, the world has changed. If you want to continue with your commitment in the military, when we can start to fly again and get you to basic training, we'll call you. And so it was 6 days later, I think, they called, and my mom, I'm my mother's only child. So she's like, so you're not going, right? And I'm like, no, of course I'm going. Why wouldn't I go? So 6 days later, I left for basic training, and 1/3 of the people that were supposed to be showing up for basic training showed up. Wow. And so the rest is history. I mean, honestly, I got bored. I wanted something else to do. I wanted to travel. Like, all of those things led me to the Army. My personality was really great for that lifestyle. And I don't regret a second of it. Like, it was.
Yeah, you loved your stay in there, right?
I did. I really did. And it's not for everybody. And I'll be the first one to admit that, for sure. Yeah. But for me, I loved it. I really did.
What would you say to somebody who's 26 and listening to this and they're like, I want to do that? And second question was, why did you pick the Army over the other branches?
It probably had to do with the opportunities available.
Okay.
The Army, because it's a larger entity, has more opportunity, not only for what field you go in, but also advancement. So, if you're looking at the branches, and I have absolute respect for every single one of them, as much as, they make fun of each other, they always, they respect. But like the Air Force, for example, a better lifestyle, I would say, in general, but it's very small and the people stay for a long time. So the opportunity for advancement is less. So for me, that was important. So, things like that. Shoot, what was your other question?
Well, it was kind of twofold. One was, if somebody's 26 and they want to, join or do it, what do you advise them to do?
I would just say, reach out to a recruiter and realize that a recruiter is a salesman. And I say that with respect. I mean, their job is to fill quotas. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. That's their job. They will, if they have to fill a certain amount of positions in job A, B, and C, like, that's what they're going to try to do. So going to a recruiter knowing what you want and what's available to you after doing some research is very good. But explore the option. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a great life. And my kids, my daughter's a freshman in high school. She is very musically inclined. She doesn't know exactly what she wants to do, but she's thinking of joining the military to be in the Army band. I'm like, cool, that'd be a really cool job.
That'd be
Sure,
neat.
if that's what you want to do, then let's figure out how to make it happen. Like,
Yeah.
So, but if that's not for them, that's cool too. Because like I said, it's definitely not for everybody.
Right. What was your job in the military again?
I was in military intelligence, and my job was a listening job. In the linguist categories, you could have people that are interrogators or people that interpret intelligence. That was more my job. It was a listening job, like listening to interceptions or conversations or things like that. So it was listening and interpreting.
Okay. It sounds kind of boring. Like I'm picturing like you're in this dark room with a bunch of headphones for 8 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't nearly as interesting as many others, but I mean, they're all necessary. So
Yeah, that sounds like
they're all mission critical.
Yeah, right. It sounds like you're behind it if you can see the purpose of the mission, which I
Sure.
respect. That's really cool.
Yeah.
How high rank did you get to?
I was only for a specialist in E4.
Oh, okay. Because with the
Yeah.
college, I know that you somehow start differently. That's all I
You
really
do.
know.
You go in as an E4, and if I had to pick one thing in my entire life that I regretted, so to speak, it would probably be getting out of the military. And I did it because I was a young mother at the time, and my husband was also an Arabic linguist. And at the time, I mean, this is the early 2000s, right? We're in up to our elbows in the Middle East. And one or both of us would have been shipped overseas without a doubt, and without much concern about our child, which sounds harsh, but I mean, look, you're in the Army. I mean, they make these choices for you, and you know that. So I just wasn't willing to make that choice for a child that didn't know what he was getting himself into. So I knew what I was getting myself into, but he didn't. So yeah, I stuck it out as an E4, but if there are times when I wish I would have stayed in, but
Yeah, kind of with age being the experience, you might look back and be like, big
Absolutely.
deal. We would have been overseas. We would have
Yep.
been on a base. Army people do this all the time. That kind of thing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And when I decided to get out, one of the higher level female NCOs, non-commissioned officers, took me aside and said, people do this. And I know, but I had an irrational young mother's mind, and I say that being able to look back and know that at the time that the decision I made was what was right for that time. You know what I mean?
I just saw you should try to go back in. I don't know your age, and I'm not going to ask you. But
I have before. I think I was maybe 40 or 41, maybe even 39. They didn't want me.
yeah,
So,
I just saw some ad for like a 60-year-old went and did boot camp again or something like that.
yeah,
He joined again.
if you are an attorney, or if you are in the medical field, they will take you up to old age, quote unquote old age. But yeah, I didn't fit that bill. So
I heard with doctors, I didn't know attorneys because I figured there'd be enough young attorneys coming out of schools that would want to go.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's what they told me at the time. Yep.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing that, and of course, thanks
you're
for
welcome.
serving. And I just think that's an exciting story. I love that story at 26, and yeah, you're like, I want to do something different, so you did. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was definitely something different. That's for sure. I'm just glad that life didn't continue like basic training did. I'll tell you. When you have a third as many soldiers and the right amount of drill sergeants, it's a little tough.
Oh my gosh, they must have been on you all the time.
They were on us all the time.
Wow.
Yep.
now being older, were you able to like see through it and it was okay? Or were you like, why did I do this?
All of the above. So because I was older, I was put in charge a lot, which was good, but it also meant that I was the one that got in trouble a lot when people screwed up. So, so that was a double-edged sword. And the other part of it was, for the most part, I could see through it, but there was one time I broke down that I was like, I had a female drill sergeant and my battle buddy and I went over and talked to her, and I was in tears. And I'm like, please tell me that the real Army is not like this. She's like, Steele, that's my maiden name, Steele, suck it up. This is not the real Army. I go home every night and change my clothes. Like, you know, so that was her loving way of telling me that, yeah, everything's going to be fine.
Oh, I bet you that you could have needed that though. Like that's, yeah. That probably was in the moment, I can picture that being a great pat on the back. It sounds so minimal heel, but I bet
yeah,
you.
No.
Like,
It was, she gave me a gift.
She did. That's what
because she gave me hope.
Gave you hope. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast and sharing your story. And you guys heard me talking about my COVID hair. If you want to support the show, you can do that over on Patreon. And you just search Raef Granger Podcast. And you can support the show for as little as $2 and more if you should want to. And it helps me keep the lights on, so to speak. And you'll get access to the video and that other little outtakes and things that we might not put on the main show. And more importantly, however, though, is Denise, if people want to reach you, either to hear about how to join the Army or travel, how's the best way they can reach you?
I think the best way is probably via email. So they can reach me at denise@liveitwelltravel.com.
Okay.
I'm on my business is on Facebook, Live It Well Travel, and I post a lot of content there. I also post my blogs from there. So
I wanted to talk about your blog. Yeah. How do people get to your blog?
My blog is mrssmithtravels.com.
Okay.
And I recently, just a week and a half ago, was at Disney, COVID Disney.
Oh,
and
I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, well, you know what? Your listeners can go read all about it on my blog because
I like it.
Have at least 10 blogs about my time at Disney. So
I had some friends, they're lifelong Disney people too. They have, I think I might have told you the story. They had I don't know. They have property there they can go to on property.
Disney Vacation Club. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So they go every year and they love it. And somebody was giving my friend a hard time about going, COVID. Aren't you worried about COVID? And his response was, I have more of a chance of dying on the car ride to get to Disney to get to the point that I do of COVID. And I'm like, that's true.
Sure thing. I mean, Disney is always, they're the happiest place on earth. And I'm pretty sure Disney is the cleanest place on earth with all the things that they're doing. And we didn't go to Universal or SeaWorld or anything this trip, but from what other agents that I'm in contact with said is they are doing just as fabulous a job as Disney, maybe even better. I heard
even better.
I mean, it's amazing. So these places, I mean, I can't say they're safe, so to speak, but I mean, look, is Market Basket safe? So, well,
you could say if you felt safe or you felt safe for your family.
I felt 100% safe on the flight, which was a Delta flight. Amazing. I love Delta. And I felt 100% safe at the airports and at Disney. So
have you read
want to go back.
Inside the Magic Kingdom?
I don't know.
So a big book inside the coaching world or just self-help is called.
Now that you say that, I think I have seen it. I don't know that I've read the whole thing.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's one of those thin books, easy read. And it's one of those books that's about the Magic Kingdom and you learn all sorts of little interesting tidbits, but the author, it's written for business people to read about what you can take away from what Disney does to for your business and stuff. And
I think that there's probably a lot of great nuggets in there for sure.
One of them that I love is, I guess, on Main Street. Is that what it's called when you first walk in?
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah.
That those hitching posts that look like the horses used to hitch to and stuff are painted every single morning. They're painted.
Really?
Yep. Fresh coat of paint, at least when the book was written.
Wow. It doesn't surprise me because one thing that my husband and I have always said is that everything looks like it has a fresh coat of paint.
It's literally painted. Because I guess Walt wanted it to be that first impression was he wanted it to look like that old time Main Street, and he
Mhm.
wanted it to be pristine for every visitor. But
Yep.
what I love is it's not just like, oh, new coat of paint, that's cool. Nope. They have it such down to a science that they know on any particular season or day when that paint has to be painted in order to be dried to when the gates will open. So they have it exact. And that's sort of the lesson is like, where in your business do you need to be that exact, or where you want to have that kind of customer experience? So that's just one of the things that I remember.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We talked about this before. I'm a huge Disney fan, and I'm either love or you Disney or you don't. And as of all of the vendors that I work with, Disney is one of the more fun ones for me, just because I have a personal passion for it.
Mhm.
But I love Disney, and I think that they're doing a great job during this tough time.
I'm torn. I know we're going a little long, but I think I might have even shared with you too. I went when I was dating my wife, and I had not gone since the wilderness trip as a kid. And we had such a fun time. I'm like, I see why people love Disney. And then we went when my youngest was 3, and we had the best time. And everybody was like, don't go in the 3, they don't remember anything. She had so much fun. She danced in the parade. She had a blast. Then we went 3 years ago or so. Miserable, Denise.
Oh no.
My kids were miserable. My teenager was old enough to be like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in any rides. I just want to be home with my friends. I think cell phones were out and about by then. So and then my youngest, who loved it that other time, she didn't get the concept that like Disney's, there's massive lines. So after Fast Pass, she's like, there's an hour and 50-minute wait to go on that. I don't want to go on that. I don't want to go on that. We're like, we're at Disney. What else are we going to do? So we'll stand in line. We'll sit in the shade. Nope. Hated it. They hated it. And then I'm like, oh, I felt like I spent all that money.
Yeah.
You
must have gone during a school break.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. It was really packed.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
Yeah. I think we did stay. Now, that might have been the other thing too, is I did travel with my parents. They were nice enough to like put us up. But I remember, I think that in like a condo off campus, but I think that added enough of a coordination issue that added to it being just not the magic. Nothing to do with Disney. They didn't change. They weren't horrible. It was none of that. It was my kids didn't find it to be magical.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily my kids are still on board. I still make them wear all coordinated shirts too. So
I love it. I might do. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No. I was going to say when it's busier, that's important. It wasn't as important this last trip, but
I love it. Did you know I do magic tricks when I was a kid?
No.
So yeah, I'll save that for another podcast, or we'll do a 1-to-1. But there was a street magician in what's the Hollywood Disney park? What's that?
Hollywood Studios?
Yeah. And there was a street magician, and he was so good. And I'm like, another bucket list item. Maybe when I retire, I'll be like a street magician.
Yeah. Kelly and I I told you we want to move to Europe, but we've also said, what if we live in Florida for a year? And we're like, the grandmas and grandpas that get jobs at Disney for like 15 hours a week. And, I don't know, at a shop or who cares like what we're doing?
Yeah.
And we get to go to Disney every week. Like, how cool would that be?
See, for a minute there, I thought you meant you were going to be grandmas and grandpas. Like you'd have like a white wig or something. You'd walk around as the characters or something.
No,
from like
that
Swiss
would be
Family Robinson or something.
That'd be cool. No. In a few years, that's kind of on our bucket list too. So we'll see. We're kind of into long-term travel at this point, but you know.
Well, thanks again. And please, guys, if you have any questions about travel, reach out to Denise at that email. Hit them with the email again, Denise.
It's Denise@liveitwelltravel.com.
And if you have any questions for me, you can reach me at Raef@RaefGranger.com. And wherever you are listening to this on your favorite podcatcher on iTunes, if you leave me a review, if you like the show, that would be great. It lets others know who have similar interests who may want to listen to the show. So thanks again for listening. Thanks again, Denise, and we'll talk later.
Thanks, Raef. I appreciate it.
All right. See y'all in a minute, or see you later. Into the Wilderness series.
Into the Wilderness. It is about a woman who's in her late 20s who was brought up in an English household, a well-to-do English household, who comes to the frontier of New York. At the time, it's the frontier of New York in the early 1800s, maybe it was even like 1799 or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And then her life there, her goal as a blue stocking, or, you know, a woman who's 29 and has not been married yet.
That's called a blue stocking?
A blue stocking in that period, yes. Is to start a school for these kids in this frontier area. And it's just really interesting how it goes through the relationship between the settlers and the Native Americans. It talks a lot about trade. It talks a lot about historical culture, which is what draws me in, is learning the differences and the advances that happen. It also goes through the French and Indian War, which is something that we almost never
talk about that. Ooh, I might have to pick this up.
It's cool. I would say that there is an element of romance. So it's not a romance book, though. So don't let that turn you off. Yeah.
That's how it was named.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm. My mom read my name in a romance novel.
Aw, that's so sweet. That's so cool that you have an origin to your name. I like that.
Yeah.
There's 7 books in this series, though.
And cool.
I love that because I like becoming involved with the characters. You know what I mean?
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I want them. I want to see them grow and change, like not just a single book and then I never read about them again. So I love series. Is
it hard to get into? Like, are you like, hey, you got to get through? Because some of those can be dense and they might not pick up till chapter 4. Or are you like, no, you'll get right into it?
No, I think it's pretty good. The first book in the series is called Into the Wilderness.
Okay.
And
write that down.
It gets really good. Maybe like a couple of chapters in, but the beginning is still good. It's so full of detail and what life was like then. And that's what, for me, that's the romance of it, not the actual romance.
Not the kissy. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you read The Shack?
I have not read The Shack, but I also tend to not read books that might pull on my heartstrings too much.
Ooh, yeah, it got recommended to me. So for the listeners, I'm trying to see if I can show a picture. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law recommended it to my wife, and my wife said, you got to read this book. And I don't want to give anything away. Yeah, I would describe it as a heartstring puller. It delves into God and religion, and it did pull on my heartstrings. It's I don't know if it's every mother's nightmare, but it's every father's nightmare. I'll leave it with that. Could be mother's too. I'm not sure because I don't want to say any more and ruin it. And then it at the end, I literally finished it, and at the end, I think I cried 5 separate times. I'm talking crying, like not just a tear. Like I literally
ugly cry.
Yeah, I ugly cried.
Yeah.
And then something I've been working on, by the way. I didn't let it. I usually try to hold that back. Be like, my brain's like, "What are you doing?" And it's a book, and I'm like, "Let it out. Like, cry. It's good to cry." So yeah, I ugly cried. And I felt better.
I get that. I totally get that. I know about the book. It's been recommended to me quite a few times. This is gonna sound really odd, and then on the same level make me sound like a really cold person, but I feel too deeply. So I compartmentalize that a lot. And so I try to avoid those situations, which is probably why I don't watch, your traditional chick flicks, or like, the tearjerker movies. So maybe about 20 plus years ago, I watched Bridges of Madison County, and I was like
That's
ball of it was a gut wrencher, and I've never seen one of those movies again. And I'm not doing that to myself again. So.
I'm writing that down. I'm going to suggest you read it, and not because I'm a masochist, but because Identical to how you described your exercise and how I couldn't play the guitar, I feel things deeply too. And I don't show it a lot. A lot of people know me, see me as kind of a logical sort of, I'm trying to show my emotions more actually. But I was like, when somebody described it to me, I'm like, no, I'm good. Don't need that in my life. And I can't explain it to you. It gave me comfort, hope, and peace to read the book. Prior more than what I had before. So it was the type of thing where I call it like looking out of the side of my eye. Like I'm like, I don't need that in my life. I don't want to look at it. I don't even want to think about it. But then the thoughts come in, those scary thoughts, right? And then reading the book, because the character explores those thoughts that we have, and he goes on a journey, and I went on the journey with him. And so it was as if it happened to me. And yeah, I feel better. Like it healed me in some way. It was that good.
All right. I will accept your challenge, but I admit that I'm doing it reluctantly. So
I was a bit reluctant too.
But I'll do it.
No, and I don't know. I mean, maybe you do. If you feel 10 times more than me, then yeah, this could be bad and dangerous. Like, I don't know. But if it's like,
I don't think it'd be bad and dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Bridges.
It's my willful ignorance, and I do claim willful ignorance in a lot of things, because honestly, there's just a lot of things I don't want to know about.
Yeah,
so,
same.
You know,
I think that's why my wife, she never recommends. That's not true. Every time she's not a voracious reader, and she very rarely recommends books. So she's like, you need to read this. I'm like, oh, that's a message. Okay. So and I'm saying that same thing to you. I'm really, right. Matter of fact, I'm going to give it to you.
Okay.
Because they talk about that, like pass it on and you know, buy the book and give it to somebody. So I don't think I might even just give you my copy. I don't even think I need to buy a new one. So, all right. So when we go off the air, I'll get your address.
Okay.